Okay, the next couple of weeks, we're going to focus on the legislative branch, which for the national government is the Congress. And as you know, Congress is made up of two houses. We've got the House of Representatives based on population. So some states have more representatives than others. California has the most. Rhode Island, North and South Dakota, Wyoming, they have the least because they're the least populated states. They have one. At least one representative. So every state has at least one member of the House of Representatives. The Senate is equal per state, 2 per state. Okay, so here's what we're going to learn. I want you to understand how members of Congress are elected. We're going to spend a lot of time evaluating the structure, leadership, and powers of Congress. You're going to look at the lawmaking process, and you'll learn that most bills never ever become a law. They actually sit in the committee, and that'll make sense to you by the end of all of this. We're going to look at the House and the Senate and compare them and determine the similarities and differences between them. You're going to pick a current congressional bill and your choice that's currently on the docket and tell me what that's about and how you would vote if you were a member of Congress. And then there's a Capitol tour you're going to take. That's on the website that I created for this unit. Okay? Now, what does Congress do? Two main things. They pass laws. They're bills. The exact same bill, exact same wording, has to pass both the House and the Senate. There can't be any differences between those two. Then they send it to the president, and if the president signs it, becomes a law. So they pass the laws, basically, and they also have oversight on the laws as well. So once the law is passed, they want to make sure that the law is being followed, or maybe it needs to be revised and so forth. So they'll hold hearings in their committees to determine, the validity of a law. It's a bicameral legislature. That the term you should know. Bicameral is like a bicycle. There's two houses of Congress, the House and the Senate, but there's differences between the two. Let's look at the differences between the two. Okay. Somebody's elected to the House, they get a 2-year term. Senate, they get a 6-year term. Last November, this month, or actually it was last month, every member of the House of Representatives was up for re-election. Every 2 years, all 435 members are up for re-election. Senate, there's 100 members. A third of them, about 33, are up for re-election every 3 years. Their terms overlap one another. So the third that was elected this year, they have a 6-year term. So they'll take office in 2021. So they'll have to run again in 2026. There's another third that will run for re-election in 2 years from now, 2022, and they were elected in 2016, and then the people that were elected to the Senate in 2018 will have to run for re-election in 2024. Okay? Hope that didn't confuse you, but all 435 members of the House go up for re-election at the same time. Equal representation. There's 50 states. There's 2 per state, so there's 100 members of the House. 435 is the proportional representation. It's based on a state's population. Okay, there's special things that have to happen in the House of Representatives and the Senate. Any money bill, any bill that involves taxing and spending, that bill has to start in the House of Representatives. And the thinking is that because they're based on population, they represent a district. The district has about 350,000 people in it. It's best to start any bill that takes and spends the people's money start those in the districts with the people that represent the smallest number of people. In the Senate, they give advice and consent on appointments and treaties. So anytime the president appoints somebody to a major office in the executive branch, a Supreme Court justice, the Secretary of State, so on, those have to be approved by the Senate, not the House, only the Senate. And if they vote, if a majority of the Senate, if 50 or more senators, 51 senators vote for an appointment by the president, that person gets office. And then any treaty that's signed, to end a war, or NAFTA, the North America Free Trade Agreement, something like that, that has to be approved by two-thirds of the Senate, okay? So that's just only the Senate. The House has nothing to do with treaties. Anytime an official, whether it's the president or a member of the federal judicial branch, if they're going to be impeached, that has to start in the House of Representatives. Students, when they hear impeached, they think that somebody's kicked out of office, but really if somebody is impeached, all that means is they're brought up on charges. Like a grand jury has said, yes, there's enough evidence to put this person on trial. That's what the House does with impeachment. Okay, once a person is impeached, their removal trial is held in the Senate. Okay, and two-thirds of the Senate have to vote to remove a president from office or a member of the judicial branch. Okay, the House is more centralized. The Speaker of the House runs the House of Representatives. We'll talk about that person in just a second. That person has a lot of power in the House of Representatives. They're very centralized. The power comes from the Speaker of the House. And what I mean by that is people that are in charge of committees, they're put there by the Speaker of the House. How much debate is held on a bill, that's determined by the Speaker of the House. Whether or not a bill gets to the floor for debate, comes out of committee, that is determined by the Speaker of the House. The Senate is less centralized. There's less of them. There's 100 versus 435, so they're a little more relaxed, a little more personal in their interaction with each other, whereas in the House, there's really strong leadership. The party and the Speaker or the minority leader of the opposition party have a lot of say in what gets done in the House of Representatives. In the House, the most important committee is the Rules Committee. They, just like it sounds, set up all the rules. They determine how long a debate will happen. Is it going to be 2 hours? Is it going to be 10 minutes? It's up to the Rules Committee. And the Speaker of the House is the head of the Rules Committee. Are they going to have an open debate, a closed debate? Are they going to have any kind of rules that are associated with not just a debate, but a bill? Can you add amendments to the bill, or does it go through the House as is? That's up to the Rules Committee, which, again, is led by the Speaker of the House of Representatives. They only allow germane amendments. And what is meant by that is an amendment has to be somehow related to the bill in order to be added to the bill. An amendment is when a member of the House says, I think this should be added to the bill. They can do it in committee, they can do it in debate, but other people have to vote in the committee, or the entire House have to vote on whether or not to add that amendment to the bill. In the House, it has to be related to the bill. So if a bill has something to do with military spending, an amendment that's added has to have something to do with military spending. In the Senate, they allow non-germane amendments. They're called riders. If there's a military spending bill, a senator can add an amendment that has nothing to do with military spending. They can add something that says, hey, I'd like a library put in my district. They can put that in the as an amendment in the bill, even though it has nothing to do with military spending. Okay? The Senate also has a filibuster, which we'll talk about in just a second. That's a special kind of debate. It's pretty interesting, I think, on how the filibuster works. In the House of Representatives, members specialize in a topic. They might have a specialty in finance, or the judicial branch, or the environment. If that's their specialty, that's the committee they go on, and that's what they specialize in the bills, okay, and in debates and so forth. It's because there's so many members in the House of Representatives. You have to specialize. The Senate, they have to cover the same things and same topics and same bills with less people. So the members tend to be more generalists. So they might be on a committee concerning foreign policy, and they also might be on a committee concerning the environment. Okay, so they do actually more work than the House of Representatives because there's less of them. Floor debate is less important in the House. The committee work is really most important in the House. That's where things get done. It's important in the Senate, but it's not as important as the Senate as it is in the House of Representatives. So they tend to have more floor debate. A floor debate is when the entire Senate or the entire House of Representatives are together. That happens a lot more in the Senate, again, because there's less of them. Now, the filibuster. This is only in the Senate. This is an interesting thing. In the filibuster, there is anybody can talk about a bill for any amount of time. In the House of Representatives, if they have a debate, there's a time to it. This debate is going to last 50 minutes. In the Senate, they can do an unlimited debate, a filibuster. So they can debate a bill. I always, for an unlimited amount of time, I always compare it to a kid doing a temper tantrum to get something. So if a senator doesn't like a bill, they can filibuster and they can talk and talk and talk for hours, unlimited, and that unlimited debate. And it's really not a debate. It's just them grabbing the microphone and being up at the speaker's podium in the Senate and just talking. The filibuster is used to either prevent something from being added to a bill, to make a point to add something to a bill, or to actually kill a bill. To stop a filibuster, 2/3 of the Senate has to vote to stop a filibuster. Okay? That means Democrats and Republicans, because it's split roughly 50-50 now. The Republicans have a 2-person majority in the Senate, but that means Democrats and Republicans have to vote together to stop a filibuster. Okay, so I think you can understand how it's seen as, how I see it as a temper tantrum. It's somebody grabbing the microphone and just talking until they get their way. The rules in the Senate are for the first hour, whatever you talk about has to be about the bill or the topic. From there on out, after an hour, it's free game. The longest filibuster in Senate history, get this, was 24 hours. 24 hours and 30 minutes. That was done by Strom Thurmond against the 1957 Civil Rights Act. He was a segregationist. He didn't think the federal government should be involved in ending segregation. He said that should be up to the states. He was from South Carolina, so he was a Southerner, believe it or not. And he talked the bill until they basically took the most important parts of that bill out. 24 hours and 30 minutes. Okay. Now, in a filibuster, as soon as somebody leaves the podium, it's over. The filibuster is over. So if somebody has to take a restroom break, they don't allow them to do it. If their voice starts to go and they're down to a whisper or they can't talk anymore, that's the end of the filibuster. You can't take a lunch break. So the only thing really that ends a filibuster besides a cloture, C-L-O-T-U-R-E, that's the 2/3 vote by the Senate, is actually what usually ends filibusters is not that. It's usually the person just runs out of steam that's doing the filibuster. They can't talk anymore, or they're hungry, or they're tired. But 24 hours and 18 minutes. The current senator, Ted Cruz from Texas, has like 2 or 3 filibusters in the top 10 filibusters of all time. And I didn't watch the whole thing, but he did one for like 12 hours once, and he basically said, I can't talk anymore. It's over. Okay, so that's it for this week. We'll do more with Congress next week, but don't forget to fill out the chart telling me what you learned from this, and be specific as well, and then what you need help with. Okay, good luck.